And the 2023 Black Woman is God exhibition, Come Home to Mama, Fear Dark No More, is in its 10th year anniversary. And so the theme for this year, as I am understanding it, is motherhood. And Black women artists are going to be discussing and are discussing what motherhood means to them.
And I want to thank you all for being here and this university for hosting such a powerful, transformative, and radical conversation. I was here about God as Black woman. Dr. Cleveland holds a Ph.D. in social psychology from the University of California, Santa Barbara, a BA from Dartmouth College, where she was a double major in sociology and psychological and brain sciences. An award-winning researcher and author, Christena is the Ford Foundation Fellow, who has held faculty positions at several institutions of higher education. Most recently at Duke University, Divinity School, where she was the first African American and first female director of the Duke Center for Reconciliation, and also led a research team investigating self-compassion as a buffer to racial stress. In 2022, she published her second full-length book, God is a Black Woman, where she details her 400-mile walk pilgrimage across central France in search of ancient Black Madonna statues, and examining the relationship among race, gender, and cultural perceptions of the divine. Her work has been featured in a number of major media outlets, including the History Channel, PBS, Essence Magazine, The Washington Post, NPR, and BBC Radio. Though Dr. Cleveland loves scholarly inquiry, she is also an avid student of embodied wisdom. Yes, she is. And she is also a bona fide tea snob,
yes,
and lover of Black arts. Let's welcome Dr. Christena Cleveland to the Graduate Theological Union.
You have to really sift, and it's taken me years to find all these, but with the exception of the book, the Bell Hooks book, Homegrown, in which she barely talks about the Black Madonna, but what she says is powerful because it's Bell Hooks. All the other ones are pretty much in the last 3 to 5 years. So there's a renaissance, I would say, and there are definitely a lot more Black folks talking about the Black Madonna. These are just some of them. There's several Ph.D. students and early career academics who have things coming down the pipe. I know that because I've been in email conversation with them. So there'll be much more coming out, and this is not exhaustive, but I want to draw your attention to Finding La Negrita, which is by Natasha Gordon Chichembre, and that's a novel about the Black Madonna of Costa Rica, and it's an historical novel. It's stunning. And then I also want to, so Mark Stephen Greenfield has done a lot of work on the Black Madonna as an artist, as a visual artist.
Good.
He's incredible. And some of them you're like you look at it and you're like, wow, he's doing, it's shocking in the best way. And there's some really great essays on the Black Madonna that are written by other Black artists in that book. And then also Darker Gods by Damon Davis is not technically a Black Madonna work, but he kind of just re-envisioned the Black Madonna, and he calls her the Megadonna. And that's, his work is just fascinating too, and there's a lot of written work in addition to she's a visual artist as well. So Feaster Gates, of course, has done a lot on the Black Madonna. And then this book, The Black Madonna by Courtney Hall something, I forget her last name. That's a really interesting one too. She's a Black evangelical, so it's just a really fascinating perspective on the Black Madonna. Notwithstanding so much of our desire for physical, mental, and emotional healing stems from our desire for society to care for and nurture us. Our collective global experience of the COVID-19 pandemic attests to this truth. In white male God society, to have need is a social death sentence and is the best way to be excluded from any safety nets that are available. In particular, the elderly, people who live with chronic physical and or mental illness, the disabled, the non-male people of color, can attest to the fact that our anti-nurturing, inaccessible society shuns them and scorns their need. When we seek physical healing, we are not just looking for physical wellness. We are also looking for social acceptance and access to the goodies that white male God only reserves for the needless. But at her altar, everything belongs, and our need is our special offering to her. You see, unlike white male God, she welcomes our need because it reminds us to seek her out. She knows that we're much more likely to bypass her healing spring when we have the resources to numb our needs at the swanky spa across town. She knows she offers something the swanky spa can never provide. She knows that only her unquestioned, undeniable, unavoidable, unconditional love can piece us back together after white male God society has decapitated us. So I took a video of her because my heart just broke when I saw her, and I've seen some pretty busted Black Madonnas because some of them have been stolen, and a lot of them are just really old, but I've never seen one as sad as her, and I just started crying right there in the chapel because she looks like I feel as a Black woman. She looks just tired and unprotected and chronically struggling. And she was out there all alone. White supremacy, come over here. If you need a target, attack this. But we're gonna take care of our sacred Black woman.
Wow. The original.
The original. I was like, what is happening in this little town? That's not even the end of the story. So I'm like thanking everybody. I've made friends with these two women, the woman who worked in town halls as the administrative assistant, this other woman who'd given me a ride. And so then I'm about to walk back to Mulan. I have about a 3-hour walk ahead of me. And the old Christina would have been like, all right, 3-hour walk, we better go. The new Christina is like, I'm French now, let's stop for tea.
And then I followed your pilgrimage, and when I finally had to leave that church because of what happens to Black women at multi-ethnic churches, I found myself at Montserrat. And I just remember walking in, I'm kind of knowing this is exactly where I have to go. And I remember walking into the basilica and having that same moment of, okay. And just feeling the fullness of this whole entire basilica was built around her. And you read the story of and we saved her, and we found her, and we built everything around her. And it was just that moment of being able to take another deep breath. So I'm thankful that I have been following you on your pilgrimage for even longer. And it has been a similar path.
Thank you so much. This has been really amazing.
Yes, Dr.
I was able to attend your talk with the Salt Eaters Bookshop virtually, and it was life-changing, and I really appreciated you talking about recovery and your own healing journey. I had asked a question about inner child healing, and you spoke about the Black Madonna as kind of holding your hand through memories of childhood trauma. Just was wondering if you could speak a little more about how the Black Madonna has aided you in your own process of healing spiritual trauma and religious abuse, as a Black woman who is spiritual and divine and has these gifts that I'm sure were prevalent in childhood that weren't always honored as sacred.
Yeah, thank you for asking that. There's so much that can be said. In 2020, it was such a gift. At the end of 2021, I was working with my spiritual director, and we decided that I was going to do this project for 2020. And I was going to every single day, starting on January 1st, 2020, write down an instance, an experience, a conversation, a person, something from my life that was the Black Madonna, even though I didn't know it was the Black Madonna. I was calling it my Sacred History Project. And it turns out 2020 was a really good year to remind myself that I have never been alone, because 2020 was like a really intense year for all of us. But I started that January 1st. And so I was able to go back and look at, at that time I turned 40 that year. And so, 40 years of life, most of it not even knowing anything about the Black Madonna, but looking for her. And so I think I've done a lot of EMDR therapy, which is a type of trauma therapy, where you're invited to think of a resource as you go back into your most traumatic memories. So I think because I had done EMDR, it was for 2 years, it was easier for me to imagine a sacred Black feminine energy, even in some of the most painful experiences. And one of the things that I learned through that is that the darkness is not a what, it's a who.
Right.
And so I can find the sacred even in situations that feel irreconcilable or irreparable. And so an example of that, what did you say your name was, Philadelphia? Bree. Okay. An example of that was going back and looking at the times when I was a little girl and I was at summer camp, and I was obsessed with getting to summer camp, and I never really knew why, except for I felt so seen and held by the redwood trees. I went to summer camp in Santa Cruz because I grew up in Fremont, and just even seeing, that was the sacred Black feminine, that was the Black Madonna in those trees with me, and so that's one thing that I've done, and I would recommend a sacred history project for anyone, just because when you do it, it's amazing what comes up just daily in your memories.